Oh dear. This is not going well. Hi guys. It's been a few weeks, 3 weeks to be exact, and last time you were with me, we sprouted some plant babies, so I'm super excited to catch you up to speed here, show you what's been going on because it happens really fast. Subi, you want some water too? You want some water? Yeah, she's like a big plant baby. So at any rate, I'm gonna show you what's going on, and then we're actually going to a job site in a moment to talk about what I'm going to be building this season. Subi, you go over there. You can see I've moved my location of where I'm growing. Before we were on a wall over by the kitchen. Now things have escalated and you're just seeing just the tip of the iceberg, if you will, because things are going to get exponentially crazy when we move out to the garage. But for now, I've shifted gears. I'm in the dining room and I want to show you what's been going on. These are onions. Let me get you a little closer up here. All of those little tiny seeds we put in the pods 3 weeks ago are now this tall. And one thing that's really important to know about onions is that we have to give them a haircut. So if you didn't know that, we're gonna be cutting some hair today off of these guys, because what happens is it diverts energy down into the root system and it actually promotes more of a bulbing of the onion. So that's super important to do. Another thing that I've been doing in the last 3 weeks, when these little sprouts pop up, they have no exposure to wind like they would outside. And wind is extremely important because it helps to strengthen the stems. So I have to be the wind. And I do this a couple different ways. First, you can just take your hand and gently go over the top. Again, this is to help strengthen them. So it makes them a bit more resilient, to acclimate them to weather, quote unquote. You can also get a fan for this process too. So if you wanted to, you could set up a fan over there and just kind of blow some air on them, and that gives them that gentle wind. And one fun thing about onion seeds too is sometimes the little seed gets stuck at the top. See that little guy? That's what we put in the pod before. This is a really good example, and it obviously promoted life. These babies have started to grow, and some of them just keep the pod. They're little home base. Like I was saying, with the wind, you can do this with your hand, or if you have nothing better to do throughout the day, be the wind. I'm just kidding, I don't do this every day. But you can if you want to, if you feel compelled to. All right, so let's give them a little haircut. So you hold them like this, and you just want to take it back down to about 2 inches. Snip. Now this is not wasted. I will eat this. It tastes like chives. So make sure that you don't waste the tops. Nothing ever goes to waste here. Clip, clip, clip. So I usually just do this one time and we're good to go for the season. So these guys are nice and happy. They're gonna grow nice and strong, and I'm gonna save all of this for a little bit later. Cheers. All right, well, we've taken care of our beautiful onions. I would call them, they are in their toddler stage. So we're gonna put the toddlers back under, and I'm gonna show you some newbies. We'll check to see what live action we have today for the brand new sprouts. Okay, so this tray, we sprouted this on March 5th. This is a brand new tray. This is not the tray that we sprouted 3 weeks ago. So I've been doing a few more trays in the meantime. Oh, we got some live action. Check it out. That little baby right there. What are you? Oh, that's a kale. That's Westlander kale. We have another one here. This is a broccoli sprout. This one was sprouted on March 12th. So today is March 17th. That took 5 days to sprout. These babies, they do come up pretty fast. Broccoli, it only took 5 days, as did the kale. So one fun thing that you'll notice is that a lot of these little sprouts, they look alike when they first come up. So you wouldn't know kale versus broccoli. They're in the cruciferous family, and they all start out the same with their initial leaves. As I mentioned, it is extremely important to get these out of the dome where all this condensation, AKA the rain, keeps all that locked in. So it's extremely important to pull these pods out. This is showing you why I love working with the Jiffy peat pellets, because you can maneuver them, right? You can take this one out, you can leave that one in. So we're going to pull all of these babies out and get them some fresh air. And it's really important to plant these an inch or two under the light. light. You want them as close as possible, because if the light is, say, 6 inches up here, or even worse, a foot, then they will get really, really stretched out, and that's called being leggy. So we don't want leggy, nice skinny little sprouts. We want their stems to be nice and compact and fat, where they don't have to stretch to find the light. We bring the light to them. So I'm going to sneak these under the light 1 to 2 inches, real nice and tight, and I'm just gonna let them cook for a while. Then the dome goes back on. We'll put these babies back in and check on a little bit later. I'm gonna show you now the sprouts that we put in 3 weeks ago and just how mind-blowingly fast they grow. It's actually crazy. Isn't that wild? Things have been happening pretty fast. They all start with the same leaves. So if you come up close, these little heart-shaped leaves right here, those are condylites, and all cruciferous starts the same with these little heart-shaped leaves. And then after that, then what's called the true leaf comes in. You have this little identification of what the plant actually is becoming. So this, you would say, oh, that's a kale plant. So we'll do the same thing for these babies. You know, we want to be the wind with our hands. We can do it this way. Give them some good juju, give them all the love. Again, you could be the wind. I'm just kidding. So this is what you want to do every single day. It'll help get them nice and strong. And I always check the bottoms so you can actually see the root systems are starting to come out. It's pretty wild how what you see normally is just above the ground, but there's a lot of action. There's a lot of root action going on underground, and you can clearly see this with the pods. So probably in another week or so, I will be what's called up potting this. It's okay if there's a little root system. It can soak in the water in the wicking mat below, not a problem. But pretty soon, all of these roots are really gonna shoot out, and they're gonna need some more food, AKA organic fertilizer. So it will be time to up pot, and you're gonna see that in the next video. In another 3 weeks, I'll show you what that process entails and what I add into the next level up when they move into their teenage home before they get into their permanent adult home outside. One important thing to note that when the sprouts first come up, the genetics in that seed, it has everything it needs to support a healthy life. So you don't necessarily need to be fertilizing your seeds right off the bat. Nature has that taken care of. But when you start to see these true leaves, it's really important with this setup to start to provide some food, because these are sterile pods. There's nothing in there that will feed the plant. So again, it's okay if once they sprout up that they don't have any fertilizer. That's totally fine to grow them in a sterile mix like what's in these pods. However, now it's time to give them a little supplemental food. I love this. It's a concentrated organic fertilizer from Espoma. It works really, really well. It's very mild. If you use it properly, it's not going to burn, what they call burn the root systems or the plants. You know you've over fertilized when you start to see brown edges on your leaves. It like zaps them a little bit. Now, these are all going to have different variances in color, but you can see how it starts really dark green, and then some of these new leaves, they're getting a little lime green. So that means they need a little boost of nitrogen. So I'm gonna mix this up, and then we'll pour it in the bottom of the tray. And I only do this 1 time a week. So you don't want to do it every single time that you water, just once a week is good. So for the Espoma, you'll use a 1/2 cap per quart. And so I have a quart mixed in with water. I always like to kind of stir it up, zhuzh it up a little bit. The mixture will settle on the bottom. So when we pour it in, it's nice and even. So let's go feed the babies. I'm gonna be very careful when I pour this water in. I definitely don't want to stink up my dining room. It has a scent to it, but it's like a sweeter scent. So it's not super stinky stuff. That's another positive thing about it too. If you noticed, I did not pour water over the top of it. That's the whole concept of this tray, is that we want the water to be in the bottom so that the roots have to dig down to find the water. Like I showed you, they're starting to come out the sides. These root systems, they're hunting for water. So we want the bottom of the pod to be nice and wet, not necessarily the top. It's important that that moisture really sits at the bottom to promote all of that root growth down to the bottom. If you notice, I actually have organized the height of this pod. So this one that's looking a little taller, I'm going to shuffle him around. This is what I call the shuffling game. So I'm gonna swap him out for one that's a slightly shorter. So that way, when we pitch the light, one side can be a little higher. Like these are really tall here. So I'm going to reorganize. So that's another beautiful thing about these pods is they will grow at different rates. So it's super important that you keep an eye on that, just so that each sprout has the exact amount of light that it needs, not more, not less. Because obviously if these sprouts touch the light, they're gonna get burned. If they're too low, they're gonna get leggy. So we need to shuffle the plants around to get the right height so that everything is perfect. Okay, so those are the baby updates, which I'm super excited about, but even more so, I'm in the process of getting my garage set up so I can really rock and roll. And my builder, Corbett, he came over last week to build me these amazing tables that we're going to wheel in and out of the garage. So let's go check it out. I've made a lot of progress in here, which I'm super proud about. Props to my sister-in-law, Maggie, who came out to help me tackle this. And Corbett came and built me these amazing tables. When it gets time to start to harden off your seedlings, that means you need to take your plants in and out to get them acclimated to a little bit of weather, nice gentle sunshine, a little bit of wind, so that when these little baby sprouts go in the ground in your garden, they already have some gumption to them. They're nice and strong. I used to take tray by tray, walk them in and out of the house when I was a smaller scaled operation. But obviously as I've grown and I've gotten bigger, I'm growing up to about 3,000 plants now, which is pretty wild to be doing it indoors. I cannot wait to have my greenhouse next year. I'm so excited to be moving into that layer of the business. But we have one more season here until that beautiful structure is built. So these tables are gonna be amazing to get me by. They are on wheels and I will be wheeling these babies outside and then I'll be pulling them back in, making my life 10 times easier. So again, thank you so much, Corbett. You are a lifesaver. I really appreciate all the hard work you do on the job sites, but also behind the scenes and helping me be a bit more organized this year. I just wanted to make sure I showed you guys all this exciting progress. I still have more work to do. I'll be putting shelves on this wall over here. I'll be putting shelves between those windows. I have a little bit more of my own stuff to clear out of here. And then this room will be ready to go. Next time you come back, we're gonna have some live action in here. There's gonna be a lot of plants to check out. Before we get going to go check out the job sites that are coming up, which I'm super excited to tackle this season, I wanted to share something that was just super exciting. This is March and it is totally my month to come alive. I was asked to be on the cover of Stroll Glen Ellen, which is a local magazine. And I just wanted to share this exciting milestone in my career. I've never been on a cover of a magazine and it just showcases my work. And I really am embedded in Glen Ellen. I moved from there, obviously. I'm a few towns out now in Winfield, but I'm still very active in the community. Basically, my article to Glen Ellen is just to share my extreme gratitude and like it's a love letter to that community, just because what I'm doing now stems truly from that space. And everybody supported me, honestly, with open arms. They bought plants from me. They obviously have trusted me to create these beautiful garden sanctuaries in their backyards. And truly, I am really, really grateful. And it's just launched me into this next layer of where I'm at in life and this growth expansion mode. So that's what this whole article is all about. So hopefully you pick up a copy and read about my work and my sincere gratitude. Thank you so, so much, Glen Ellen. So that's all I have here to share for my updates in home. And now we're gonna go off site and I'm taking you to one of my first jobs this season. Her name is Jennifer. I'm super excited about this garden transformation. So let's go check it out. And we are off. We are heading to Jennifer's garden space, which will be breaking ground on probably in about 2 weeks. Background, over the winter months, I've been really dreaming up some cool spaces, more so than in years past. I think my creative juices are really flowing and the jobs, they just kind of keep getting a little bit more elaborate. This first job that we're starting with Jennifer, her yard you're going to see is on a steep pitch. The slope is like this. It is extremely intense. So that's an opportunity to play with terracing. There's actually 4 levels to this garden space we're walking into, and each one has its own feel to it, but it's all symmetrical. So you'll see what I'm talking about when this all comes together. We made it. We are here to Jennifer's garden, and let's go in her backyard. I'll show you the lay of the land. Well, here we are. It's so beautiful. So she had, when they were building their home and doing the design work in her backyard, they wanted to have a garden space. And I walk into situations like this all the time where they would actually have like a dedicated space carved out in the land, but not in a way that's functional and feasible. So she's been gardening out of this with semi-success for the last couple years, and she learned about me and who I was, and she's like, I need to take this garden up a notch. So enter me and my talents and my skill sets, and we are going to transform this garden into something way more beautiful. This entire area will get ripped out. So even these stones here, we are wiping the slate clean. There's not going to be anything here that when we come back in a month, you'll see. This will all be gone, and we are starting fresh. So one thing I really want to show you is the size of this. So this garden space is only 14 foot by 8 foot. So she wanted to really expand and create a garden space that actually goes a little bit further. So we're not working within the limits of her current garden space. We're actually taking it into 2 different levels. So what you see here will convert, and then if you keep walking, we'll relocate all of these hydrangeas, and then we're actually putting the bottom 2 tiers of the garden space right here. You'll have the first 2 tiers up there, and then it steps down and you'll have these 2 tiers. All right, come on back this way. I always love to know how people learn about me. For this garden, it was seriously a referral. In the next neighbor's yard was a project I completed in my 2nd year of business. It was my largest project at the time. It's a 10,000 square foot space for Katie and Blake. And can you see it? It's all the way back there. So what's really wild is that garden space is massive. It's 10,000 square foot of a garden and orchard, grapevines. We're definitely gonna go visit that garden this season when we're planting, and I'll give you all the lay of the land for that project. And her yard, where we're at right now, is so massive that it makes my biggest project look so small from up here. So let's go back up to the garden space, and I want to show you from the vantage point of the yard of what this is going to look like. One thing I always consider when I'm dreaming up a design is what is the vantage point of where people are hanging out at and what that design feels like to them. They'll have a patio, they have the kitchen, they're gonna see this space from all angles of the house, so I really wanted to capture the beauty and elegance of it. We're doing 2 elements of steel and cedar tone lumber, which each terrace will have a little bit of. The first idea too that I had to get creative with is how do I create a terraced garden with pathways between them that breaks it up so every part of this garden is functional. And I came up with a zigzag pattern of a path. The pattern will start from the sidewalk there. We'll use that same paver, and it actually will weave through the garden space, come in front of it, weave through the bottom, and go back in. So it'll look like at the end of the day that this garden was built here when they installed the pathway on the side that we walked down. There's going to be 2 linear trellises framing this tree on each side. We'll have arbors connecting the steel boxes together, so there's plenty of vertical grow space. We're even popping in a couple extra round cages on the top tier and the bottom tier, so she can rotate tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, all of the beautiful vegetables that require crop rotation. She'll have plenty of vertical access for that. We're also lighting up this space, so she has existing pedestals that we will match, again, to make it feel like it's really part of her landscape. There'll be pedestal lights on the entrance in the steel boxes, and then we'll do our whole routine with pathway lighting, spotlights on the trellis posts, and so that way when they look out at their beautiful garden space, it will really shine bright. So we will be back in a few weeks once we have broken ground, and I'll catch you up on all the live action that's to come.